Hello everyone, I am Siddharthan. This is the second project video in my generative AI project series, and in today's video we are going to build a personal AI research assistant using a multi-agent system powered by CrewAI in Python. We will start by understanding the overall workflow, how the different agents and tasks are structured, and how they collaborate to carry out a complete research process. Then we will walk through the implementation step by step, including a clean user interface that we will build with Streamlit, where you can simply input a research topic and the agents will handle everything from digging through information to generating a final research report. So that will be the roadmap of today's video, and let's get started. So in Draw IO, I have the workflow so that we can understand this entire system better. So this application would start with input from the user where the user can give a research query, something like research about AI agents in 2025 or something like that. So this would be given as an input in the Streamlit user interface that we would build. And this Streamlit app would then call the Crew AI framework, which is going to orchestrate the multi-agent system. So here we have three agents: research specialist agent, which is going to search through internet and find multiple information from like different sources. And then we are going to have a content analyst agent that's going to take all this information that the research specialist agent has kind of found, and it's going to analyze this content and come up with like the proper content that we can use for our research report. And finally, we have a content writer agent that's going to build the final report for this research topic. So this is the order in which the agent are going to work, and each of this agent executes a task. So first the research specialist would be executing this task called as a research task, and then this research task would be followed by analysis task. So the output that you get from this task is passed on to the next task, which will be executed by this content analyst agent. So this will be a analysis task, and finally this task would then give its output to the writer task, which is going to build that final report. And then we can save these reports as files, or we can also like display that on the Streamlit user interface that we are going to build. So this would be the entire flow, and now let's get into the hands-on part and see how we can build this stuff. So I'm going to use PyCharm. Feel free to use VS Code or other IDEs of your choice. So the first step that you need to do is install these libraries. So I have CrewAI, which is the agent framework, multi-agent AI framework that we are going to use, and then CrewAI tools. So here we are not going to build custom tools, rather we are going to work with the tools that are present in the CrewAI package, but feel free to alter this, build custom tools if you feel like you can build a better agent, or if you want to add new agents, so you can do that. So for tools, we are going to use this CrewAI tools, and we have python.env. This is used to load the values into the environment variables. So you can load your secret informations like your API keys or your configurable informations, your paths, LLM details. All these can be saved in your env file. So instead of altering or editing those values in your code, you can just adjust these values in the .env file. And then we have Streamlit library mentioned here. In order to build the Streamlit up, we know that we need this library. So the first step is create a requirements.txt file and put all these library names, and then you can run this pip install -r requirements.txt command. So this is going to install all the libraries that we have mentioned in this requirements.txt file. As you can see, all these are already installed. So it says requirement already satisfied, and here you can see that I'm in this current project path, RAC Research Assistant. So this path has the requirements.txt. So I can just say pip install -r requirements.txt. If it's in a subdirectory or a path, give the complete path of this requirements.txt file. Otherwise, like it won't be able to kind of like determine where that particular requirements.txt file is. So that's important. So these libraries may take some time to install. So wait until that process is completed. So the next thing that we are going to do is create a .env file where we are going to save all our environment variables. Let's say the API keys and the configurable aspects that I was talking about. So we are going to save all these things in the .env file. I also have a env template file. Let me paste it over here. So this you can find it in GitHub. So the best practice is that you shouldn't push your .env file to GitHub. Rather, you can have a env template where you can mention that this application is going to need this grok API key, Serper API key, and all these stuff. So the user who's, let's say, cloning your repository or collaborating, they can just like update with their own API keys. The reason is you shouldn't save your API keys in your env file and then push it, because anyone can use it, right? So you shouldn't do that. So rather, env files should not be pushed, but env template.txt can kind of like push in GitHub with some template or placeholder values, as you can see. So here we have your grok API key, Serper API key, and so on. So I'll copy this entire thing, I'll paste it over here. So this is the first step that you can do. So now let's get our grok API key and Serper API key. So you can do this with the free tier version itself. So I'm going to Google and searching this grok API key, and in this console grok.com/keys, from here we can create our API keys. You can just sign up with a Google account. So this CrewAI agents would kind of make like several calls to this LLM. So sometimes what I've noticed is that the free tier version is not sufficient sometimes. So I have a dev tier. It kind of gives you a lot more limits, but be careful on like the bill. So for me, I haven't paid any bills because like the usage is very minimal. But again, if you face that limit issue, try with the dev tier. But again, if you don't want to add your card information or all those things, you don't have to do that. So that's one thing. So in this grok cloud, again, you can sign up an account with your Gmail ID or other email IDs, and once you're in this console.grok.com/keys, you can create a new API key. So I'll call this as AI research assistant key. Let me put this as 2 and submit this, and this is going to give me the API key. So I'll copy this and paste it, and there's a grok API key variable that we have. So this particular name should not change. This grok API key and the Serper API key, this exact letters and the uppercase thing should not change, because that's where the client of grok and Serper are going to like look for these API keys. So grok is mainly to kind of use the LLM. So we are going to use the open source llama 3.370 billion LLM that's available as API in grok, and Serper is basically used to, it's kind of like a search tool, internet search tool. uh, you need this API key in order to access this. So we are going to use the Serper tool from CrewAI tools. So that needs this API key. So for that, again, go to Google, search for Serper API key. This also has like a free tier version where you get like 2,500 free queries. Let me just like quickly sign up for this. So yeah, I'm sorry, I already have an account in this. I'll just like do a quick sign in here. Yeah, so this is how it looks like, the Server Dev dashboards. There you will see a API keys thing. So here I'll create a new API key, or I can just like copy this new one. So you can create a key. So I already have one, so I'll just like copy this, and then I'll come back here and paste it. And then these are like the three agents that we have. So I've told you, right? So we have a research agent, analyst agent, writer agent. This is, we don't have a QA agent, but you can see like if that can be helpful, like a agent that kind of test quality assurance and see like if your final content is good or not. So if you want to make any changes, that agent can do this. You can also do that, but for now let's just go with these three agents. So research agent, analyst agent, and writer agent. And what I have mentioned is I want to use different LLMs for these different models, so I'm going to configure that over here. So I'm saying that research agent LLM should use grok's llama 3.3. So analyst agent should also use this thing. But if you want to use a llama 3 point llama 3s or like some 8 billion version model, you can just change this. So this analyst agent would then kind of use that particular model. So this is just to configure the LLMs based on individual agents rather than using like the same LLM for like all the agents. So the reason is, let's say analyst agent can be a simpler agent, so you don't need a 70 billion models just to save some cost and resources. So you can have a smaller model for this agent. So that's the idea for configuring this separately. Similarly, you can configure the LLM parameters like temperature separately for this agent. So I've just like taken some random values like 0 0.1, 0 0.2, and 0 0.3. So this is about that. So now let's work on building the agents and the tasks that we need. So here I'm going to create a directory called as agents, where we would have all the agent related code, and then I'll create a folder called as tasks, where we would define the task. So every agent would be assigned a task, and the task related descriptions and the details would come in this folder. And then we would need a file called as crew. crew.py where we would orchestrate all these agents and assign like all the agents to a crew. And then we could have a main.py file where we can just like test how the crew is working. So you can just give an input and you can run this main.py file and it's going to give you like all the research report and the basically the output. And then finally we would create this app.py which basically the Streamlit user interface code. So this is the directory structure that we have. So we have a agents directory that's going to have all the agent related codes. We have a tasks directory for task related code, app.py for Streamlit user interface code, crew.py script in order to orchestrate or build all these agents to a single crew. And then we have a main.py file. Again, this is not going to be used, but this is just to instead of testing this application from the Streamlit user interface, you can just give an input in the main.py and you can test this. And then we have a requirements.txt file. So this is the folder structure for this. So the first agent that we have is the research specialist agent, right? So I already have the code prepared so that we can save some time. So I'll just paste this code here and I'll explain you. So this is the research specialist task. So first is we need to kind of like import these libraries. So we have import OS and then import agent and LLM from CrewAI. So from this CrewAI library, we are importing agent and LLM, and from CrewAI tools, we are importing the Serper dev tool. And then this is the LLM configuration that we have mentioned over here. So here we have said that research agent should use this LLM, right? And that is saved in this variable called as research agent LLM. So you can get this value from your environment variable by using this os.getEnv research agent LM, and temperature is we get that from this research agent temperature. So those things are mentioned over here. There is a space here. Let me remove this. So that shouldn't be here. Okay. So we are getting the model name from this env and temperature value. You can directly put this grok llama 3.3 thing in the model is equal to, you can just put grok llama 3.3. But the thing is, as I said, you don't want to change anything on your code. You can just like change, if you want to change the model for agent, you can easily change it like for all the models. So that's why we kind of have all those configurable details in a configuration file or a .env file. Similarly, we have the temperature value that can be configured from this .env. And then we are kind of using this LLM instance over here, passing the model that we want to use and temperature. It's not that you can only use Grok, you can also use other providers like OpenAI, or if you want to run everything in local, you can also use Olama slash the respective model if you want to build this as a local system. So if you have a good GPU, you can try that as well. And then this is the main thing. So here I'm creating a variable called as a research specialist agent, and I'm using the class agent that I've imported from CrewAI. And here I'm saying that role is research specialist is the role. So these things are important: the role name, goals, and backstory, because the LLM is going to go through all these things and then it would know like what's the purpose of this agent and so on. So all this role, goal, and backstory, all these are given as string values. So here we say that the role is a research specialist and the goal is gather comprehensive and accurate information on given topics from multiple sources. And in the backstory, we have to kind of give a background. It's not about any goals. Here we have defined the goal, right? So the goal is gather this comprehensive and accurate information on a given topic. So the user would give a topic and your goal is to gather information from multiple sources. Backstory is like kind of adding a persona detail, some background about this agent. So here we say that you are an expert research specialist with years of experience in information gathering and fact checking. You have a keen eye for reliable sources and quickly identify the most relevant and up-to-date information on any topic. So we kind of give a background for this agent. So it knows like what is the role of that particular agent. And here we pass the LLM, and if we need to give any tools to the agent, we can just like mention it over here. So we have this tools parameter and we can just pass a list of tools. So here we are passing the Serper dev tool, which is a search engine tool. If you just press control and click this, you can go to this class, and here it will like show you the purpose. So this is like a tool that can be used to search the internet with a search query, supports different search types, search, news, and so on. So Serper dev tool is basically an internet search tool which is going to gather information for us. When you have verbose is equal to true, it's going to give you the intermediate outputs and the intermediate steps. So it's easier for debugging. So we can toggle this verbose as true. So the next thing is, once we have this agent, we have to create a task. Okay. So I'm going to use this research task over here. So paste it in this tasks folder. So I have this research task. So this research specialist, this agent would be assigned to perform this research task that we have. So for this, this text wrap is just to, here we have like a long description that we have mentioned in this multi-line string with this three double quotes, three opening double quotes and three closing double quotes. So when you do this, there would be this extra space that would be created. In order to remove this, we are going to use this text wrap.ddent. So that's going to remove all those unnecessary spaces that we would have in this multi-line string. So it's just like a utility that we need to use. And then similar to importing agent and LLM from CrewAI. So here we are importing this task, okay? And then we have to import the agent that we have built. So this is very important. So on the agent, we would import the tools and we would add the tool to the agent. In the research task, we would kind of import and use the agent that we want to use in this task. So I'm saying research task is equal to task of pass your agent variable that you have created. So from this agents.research specialist, as I mentioned here, I'm importing research specialist agent that we have created in this place, right? So this variable I'm importing, and then this agent is getting passed to this parameter called as agent. And in the description, I have like this detailed description of what is that task. Conduct comprehensive research on the topic. So your task is search for the most current and relevant information, gather data from multiple reliable sources, identify key facts, statistics, and so on. So we have like a detailed description of the task it has to do. And then we have said that this is the output that I'm expecting. So I'm expecting key findings from your research, important statistical information, expert opinions, recent developments, and reliable sources. And then in the expected output also, we can say that I need a comprehensive research summary with key findings, statistics, and sources. Maybe I can add this expert opinions and recent developments as well. So here I'll say uh, one is expert opinions, right? So let me just mention that. And recent developments. Okay, so these are the things that we need. So the output would contain this key information, key findings, statistics, expert opinions, and so on. So this is the output this agent is going to send. And here we are saying that save this output to a file called as research findings.md. So it's a markdown file. So we are saying that whatever task that you are performing here, so whatever information that you are collecting, save that in a markdown file called as research underscore findings.md. Okay, so this is the task. So now before adding like more agents and the UI to this, let's just first try to run this agent and see. Okay, so let's do that step. So for that, we need to come back to this crew.py file that we have created earlier. So here I'm going to say from CrewAI import crew with uppercase C, so the crew class, and then we have to import the agent and the task that we have created just now. So I'll say from agents dot research specialist. So agents is the directory and research specialist is the agent that we have created. So from this I'm going to import research specialist agent, and then from tasks folder dot research task import research task. So there will be an option to import the agent, so don't do that. So this is from that earlier import that we did in this task file. So here we need to, from this task, we need to import this research task that we have created. And then I'll call this as a research crew is equal to crew, the class that we have instantiated. And then you have to pass the list of agents that you want to add to this crew. A crew is basically like, it can have multiple agents, and based on the work, it would like assign it to the agents that it has access to. So here, let's call this as research specialist agent. And then you have to pass the tasks, and task is research task, the same thing that we imported. And similarly, I can have verbose is equal to true. Okay, so these are the things that we need. So later we would add other agents, but first let's test this agent alone. And now the testing part, we can just test this from the main.py file. Let me quickly go ahead and copy this. Okay, so from .env we are loading this using this load.env. So this is the place where the grok apk, serper apk, and all these values are going to get saved in your system environment variables, and the code, right? So the os.getenv would later get it from this research agent LM, from your env and the research agent temperature. All these are would be like getting called from there, and the grok apk and the serper apk would be automatically be picked up. So that's why you shouldn't change the name for this. These are like configurable things. So these names you can change, but the grok API key name and the server API key name should not be changed. So that's the idea. And the other main thing is the temperature value should be a float. So just like mention that as float, because that may kind of be loaded as a string value. So make sure that you are converting it to a float. So the temperature value would lie between 0 to 2. So here I've given it as 0 0.1, 0 0.2, 0 0.3. So if it's closer to 0, you're going to get the same result for every run. So that's the thing. So here we have a run method, define run. So this is going to load the environment variables, and from this crew.py file we have imported this research crew. And then in this run, a run method, run function would take this input topic as input, which is a string value, and then we would call this research crew. So how you should call this crew is, or how you should run this crew is, call this crew, say dot kickoff. So this is going to kick the crew off, basically start the crew, and all the agents should be started in order, and you have to give the input. So input is equal to topics of topic. This topic is something that we would later pass. So when we execute the script, here we have a variable called as topic, which says AI agent. So basically you pass this AI agent as a topic to this research crew dot kickoff. So that's going to do this research task for this topic called as AI agent. So that's the thing. So you're passing this AI agents topic to this run function, basically just passing this AI agents to this run function. So if you see this research task, right, if you notice, we have mentioned this topic in this curly braces. In task descriptions of CrewAI systems, whenever you mention something within curly braces in tasks, not in agents, but in tasks, when you mention something in curly braces, this is basically a variable. So when you run this CrewAI system with this crew kickoff, you should use the same variable name that you have mentioned over here. So here I have said topic, right? So when this runs, the topic value is AI agents, right? So you have to put it in this inputs. So this AI agent should be replacing this variable topic. So basically, whatever is present within the curly braces, think about those as variables, which should be replaced in the runtime. You can also have multiple variables. So let's say here we have a topic, and let's say we have some other variable like a year or something. From on that year, it should collect, let's say, all the information about that topic. Okay, something like that. So that second variable can also be passed, just like a dictionary. So the variable name that you have used in this task should be the key name for this dictionary. So you use that, and the actual value would be passed over here. So in this case, we are just saying that uh, topic is the key and the value is AI agents, right? So this is basically what's happening in this place. So in the research task, when you have a variable called as topic within this curly braces, this would look for this value in the dictionary that you're sending. So topic is present, so AI agents. So this AI agents would replace this part. So you can see this when you run this CrewAI system. So I'll show that to you there. So now we can run this main.py file. So this is a warning, so that's okay, shouldn't be an issue. Okay, so we got the final output. So let's try to understand what's basically has like happened. So let's see. So here you have this research specialist agent that's called, and the task that's getting performed is this. So we have a research specialist agent and it's executing a task. And if you see this, conduct comprehensive research on the topic AI agent. So this is what I kind of meant when I said that if you mention something in curly braces, that's a variable. So the variable is nothing but AI agents that we have passed in the form of a dictionary over here. Okay, so this would be replaced here. So this is the task that would be that we want the agent to perform. Basically, conduct research on the topic AI agents, and your task is this, like all the things that we have mentioned in the task and so on. So it would do that. So it would use this tool that it has access to, and it's using this tool called a serper, search the internet with serper tool. And here we can see like what's the exact input that the agent has sent. So the agent has sent the search query. We didn't like mention any search query, we just said that AI agents. So it automatically created a search query, AI agents current research and development. So the agent automatically created the search query, and it got this tool output from like the different sources and so on. And finally the research specialist has like come up with the final output that you can see over here. This is what you're seeing, the final answer, comprehensive research summary. So here we have this print result right within this two lines. just like 50 iPhone lines just to just mark the input and output. I'll show that to you. Right. So this is where this starts. So this line 50, the iPhone 50 is this particular line, and you have like one towards it. So whatever is between is your actual result. So if you see this result, so it has this key findings, important statistics, expert opinions, and so on. So basically what we have mentioned on the task, and all this should be saved in the research finding.md. Right now you can see here a file has been created called as a research findings.md. So that would have like this all this content in a markdown format. Okay, so this is how you can use this. Just a second. Okay, so this is how you can use this agent. So similarly, just look, all you have to do is change the variable names, change the goals and roles, and the other two agents would be ready. The content analyst agents and the content writer agents. So I already have the code. I'll just like quickly paste that code and I'll explain the details of this. So the other two are content writer and the data analyst agent. And similarly, these two agents should also have a task. So those are analysis task and writing task. Okay. Okay, so for crew, previously in crew, we just kind of had one agent, right? So similarly, we have to import all the agents and all the tasks. It may look complex, but it is not. It's just like a simple way of first we have imported only the research agent. Now we are just importing the other two agents and other two tasks. So that's the main thing. App.py doesn't change because it's still going to, sorry, not app.py, the main.py is still going to call that research crew which is present there. Only difference is we have added more agents and tasks to this agents. Now let's discuss the other agents and the tasks that we have. So we have the data analyst agent. All the things are like pretty same. So again, you have to, there is a space over here. So I made a mistake here. Okay, this is all right. So this should be a float value as we can see over here. Similarly, I'll do this for the content writer as well. So for some reason, I made this error. Okay, this should work. So now let's see. So the first agent that would work is the research specialist agent, which is going to just collect all the information, do a research, right? And then we have a content analyst and then a content writer. So the second agent in the flow is my data analyst agent or the content analyst agent. Similar, like the code is pretty similar of what we have done earlier. Only difference is that you would just change the variable name, change the role, goal, and backstory, and just get the corresponding element temperature. So here we have said that your role is a data analyst and goal is analyze, gather information. Gather information in the sense whatever information that the first agent, the research specialist agent has gathered. So analyze, gather information to extract key insights, patterns, and conclusions. You're a skilled, so again, this is a backstory or a background for that agent. So we say that you're a skilled data analyst with expertise in synthesizing complex information into actionable insights. You excel at identifying patterns, trends, and key findings from research data. So we can just like provide this backstory. You can just like tweak this backstory, goal, and the task description. So if you want the agent's behavior to change or you want to achieve something different from these agents, feel free to refer to chat gpts or like other apps if you want to like don't want to spend so much time in building this thing, or basically you can give a draft and ask ChatGPT to be more specific, more clear with this goals and backstory. So that could be really helpful. So this is the second agent, which is data analyst agent, and this has a access to file read tool because it's an option to kind of read it from the file that it has created in the previous step. So that's one thing. So the data automatically flows this in this. So you are combining all this in CrewAI, right? So automatically the research task would feed this data to analysis task, and analysis task would feed it data to writing task. But you can also use a tool to pass the files input and so on. And the order in which we use these agents and the tasks is very important. So it should be very specific. This order shouldn't change. So research specialist agent, data analyst agent, and content writer agent. Okay, so this is for data analyst. And then we have the corresponding analysis task. Again, same thing, same way of how we have created a research task. So you have to do the same thing. So import text wrap from CrewAI import task. And then the important thing is you have to import the agent as well, which should be passed to this agent parameter. And then we have a different description here. So I want, analyze the research findings for the topic. So the research findings should be provided from the previous task that you can see from here. So in the context, we are seeing that this task should work based on the context that's provided from the research task. So whatever the research task is performed with the research specialist, so that output act as the context for this. And then we say that I expect this output, a detailed analysis report with insights, patterns, and conclusion. And output should be saved in this analysis report.md file. So it's like pretty simple. Only addition to this research task is just like the context. Okay, so similarly, the writer agent, like the final content, report preparation agent, like everything is pretty similar. So you pass the LLM, you just create a new role for this content writer role. Goal is create comprehensive, well-structured reports and summary. So here we say that and give a backstory. You are a professional content writer with expertise in creating clear, engaging, well-structured documents. You can transform complex information into accessible and compelling content. So we have provided the backstory. Similarly, so we have provided this file writer tool so that you can kind of write this final report as a file. And in the tasks, writing task, we have to kind of load the content writer agent that we have created. And then again, load those two tasks, analysis tasks and research tasks, because these should be passed as a context to the final task. That's why I've used a particular, I've just like used a direction symbol over here, because the context from these tasks are getting passed down to the downstream tasks. So that's why we kind of have this. So in this content writing task, import the other two tasks that you have created, and then pass it as a list to this context parameter. Mention like how you want this output to be. So you say that you review both research findings and analysis report, write a well structured comprehensive report, and so on. And we say that the report should contain executive summary, introduction, main findings, and so on. If you want something more, or like if you want something different, you can like mention it over here. Pretty simple. It's the core idea kind of lies for these agents lies in like these things. One is your task description, which is very important. The other thing are your agent's goal and backstory. And again, of course, the agent has access to tools. So just by the wordings that you provide, you can change the behavior of your agent. So that's like the it's kind of like easier way, I would say. So it's not like pretty harder coding stuff and so on. It's not. The code aspect, like the development aspect, would lie in the tool that we would create, the custom tool. But otherwise, you can just like build really good agents with a proper goal, backstory, and the task description. Okay, so here we have three things: research specialist agent that's going to do a research, just internet search from multiple resources. And then you have an analyst agent, and then a content writer agent, and then we have like all these tasks and so on. And then yeah, crew to orchestrate all these things, and a main.py file. So now let's see. Now it should perform like three tasks. So initially we just like checked with the research task, right? So now all these outputs are also getting saved in file, like markdown files, analysis reports, and like all those reports and so on. So now let's run this main.py file again. So now the three tasks should be performed. So let's see. Okay. So the crew is running right now. So when you have verbose is equal to true, you can see like all these intermediate steps that the crew is taking. Right, so the crew has completed its execution. So this is like the final output. So the final output contains a executive summary, introduction, key findings, like whatever we have mentioned in the content writer task. Let me open that. So this is the final output, right? So executive summary, introduction, main findings, and so on. So you will like see all these information over here. And you have like the reliable sources, detailed analysis report, and trend analysis, and so on. So you have like all these information over here. So this is how it works. I can also show you like the individual agents tasks and the work that it did. So we know that the first research specialist agent does its job, and then it would pass that information to the next set of agents. So here you can see the tools that it has called. So the second agent is your data analyst agent. So research specialist is called multiple times because we wanted to search from multiple sites as well. So here you have the second agent, which is the data analyst agent, and you will see like the task description, and it would give this output. So this is the output, final output for this data analyst agent. And finally we would have the agent for content writer. So the content writer would give its final answer of executive summary, introduction, key findings, and so on. Okay, so here you can see this final report.md that has like the final report in a markdown. So this is a simple report kind of thing, but you can change this to, however you want, like, much detailed report, or let's say a documentation or something. You can do that as well. So in the final step, we are going to create a simple Streamlit application. So let me paste that code over here, app.py. Okay, so now let's run this. So here we are just like loading the same thing. Main.py is just to run the script and test the application, but you can use this app.py to just like do all these things in the user interface. The user can type in. So here we have said that do a research for this AI agents, right? So rather we can just put it on the Streamlit user interface. So in order to run this, once you have this code and everything, uh, from here run Streamlit run app.py. Okay, so let's wait for this. Let me close this threading. I think I've imported threading additionally, which is not required. Let's see. Okay, so when you have like all the API keys correctly, so it would say that API keys has been configured. Basically, when you load this load.env, so the server API key and the grok API key will be populated, and if it's missing from your env, so it checks if it's present in the env, it says that the configuration are missing. So that's for this. And here we have mentioned we have a multi-agent system, a research agent. So we have a research specialist that gathers information, data analyst that analyzes the analysis do analysis on the findings, and then a content writer which creates the report. So we kind of like mentioned all those things over here. So we have like the broader title AI research assistant that you can see over here, and we have given this subtitle called as powered by CrewAI system. So this I want you to go through this code in detail, so it's not complex. Let me just show you the working for this alone. Okay, so here enter your research topic. So we have like a subheading, and then we have a status which says like waiting for research topic. So all these are like state managed, like it manages like the state of like how the app has been created. So here I can say AI agents, the same thing maybe. And I'll click on this start research button. So it says research in progress. So we have a kind of loading spinner that we have enabled. So you can see the status has been grayed out. So it says the research agents are working, analyzing data, writing reports. So research agents are working. So it says like these three agents are working. Let's wait for this. So in the intermediate results, you can see from the terminal. So you can see like all this intermediate verbose that we have. And here we have the final report. Okay, so here you can see like all the intermediate outputs. So first we have a research findings, right? So we have research findings, you have analysis report, you have final report. So now if you want to download this final report, just like choose this. So this is my research finding, this is analysis report. So final report, if you want to download this, scroll below and click on this download final report. So here we have created a markdown file, right? So it kind of downloads that markdown file, and then you can just like view it here. Let me show this. So you can just like view this markdown file. So this is how this entire thing works. So these are the functionalities. So here we have mentioned like the different agents that we have. So here we have mentioned that if the API keys has been configured or not. So if you don't have the API key configured in the env file, so this shows you like that it is something is missing from your env. And then we have a title, a subheading, a research topic, and then we have a text box where the user can type in the research topic that they want to do and click on this start research, and we would show like all these things. So they want to download this research findings, they can like download that as well. The markdown would be downloaded and so on. And then we have analysis report, final report, and the status would say research completed. So that's the Streamlit tab that we have. So first we have the function that checks if the API keys are present. The two main API keys are your server API key and the grok API key. So here we check if it's present, and then we have run research and thread. So this is just to perform that run operation. So it basically called that research agent. So if you go to this main thing, right? So once this button is clicked, so we have this st dot button start research. So once this button is clicked, we would call this research crew dot kickoff and pass the topic. So this topic is nothing but the user input, the input provided by the user. So enter your research topic. So the user would provide their input here, and then the crew dot kickoff would be called here. Mm, I've seen it somewhere. One second. Yeah, so it would be called, and then we would have like that spinner that shows this loading page and everything. In the second column, we have status. So here we have in the first column, we have like all those research topic bars and so on in the second column. So this is my first column. The status is my second column. So we have like all those information, and then main thing. So in the footers, we have said that built with CrewAI, Streamlit, and Grok. So we have like all this information over here. So this is how you can build your AI research assistant using CrewAI in Python. So it's pretty simple. So I'll also give you the GitHub repository link in this video description. You can check that out. Just get your API keys, install the libraries, and try running this. But try to code it by yourself. Even you can just like look at the code and type it by yourself. That would definitely make you understand the steps better. So that is all from my side, and I'll see you in the next upload. Thanks for watching.